Hi guys, this is Prathy and in this video, I'll be talking about Microsoft Fabric logging framework that I've designed. It's a very long name, but it's a framework that you could use in your Microsoft Fabric notebooks, and it captures the metadata about your ETLs and ELTs. It's not rocket science. It's the same pattern that we used in your SQL Server days, like in your store procedures and things like that, or in your SSIS ETL packages. Now I'm using the exactly same pattern, but in the notebooks. So I briefly talked about it on the Microsoft Fabric Fridays. It was a very small video, just introducing how it looks like and where to get it. In this video, I'm going to go in a bit more detail, explaining how I would use it and also where you could find the framework. Let's look into it. So this is the GitHub repo where you could go and download the framework. There's a lot of information on it. You could go and find, there is a pretty decent README file, and there's a lot of files and things. So I will go to code and download this zip. So this is where my zip is, and inside it, there are some examples. So I go back to my fabric, and in here, I'm going to go and create a new folder. The folder is already there. So I'm going to go and create a new item. I'll create a notebook, and let me give a sensible name to it. That's my notebook. And now I could go to resources and click on this ellipsis and upload files. Click next and go back to my downloads. This is where my framework is. So what I'm interested in is fabric logging util. So I go and import that into my resources folder. That's been imported. If I want to view the code behind this utilities, I could go and click view and edit. That gives me this side window. I could expand it and see what's happening underneath. The other way I could go and see what's available is click on this ellipsis again and say open a notebook. Now, if I execute that code block, it shows me all the kind of different functions that's available as part of it. It shows everything that's available as part of that directory. Now I have my utilities added to my notebook. Next thing what I want is to be able to use this as part of it. But let me go back to my GitHub to grab this piece of code about how to utilize it. So click here, go back and create a new cell. So what I'm doing here is first I'm importing my Fabric logger from Fabric logging utils, and then I'm initializing the project. So for now, let me just comment this and just run. Next, I'm going to initialize the Fabric logger. So when I initialize the Fabric logger, it automatically goes and does various things as part of it. So in this case, this logger goes and downloads all the libraries that's needed. Then it goes and creates a lakehouse for you. When it's creating the lakehouse, it takes the parameter that you have given. So this is the parameter that I have given, which is my project. So it goes and creates a lakehouse with my project as part of the lakehouse. And then it goes and creates a semantic model. And it also goes and creates the relationships and some measures and things that's needed for the metadata reporting. So now it's done. I'll close this file editor and let me just scroll down. And you could see the setup is completed. This is the configuration summary that it has created. And it created a few tables for me. So if I look at the output from the top, so first of all, it's showing me which workspace has it created. So this is the workspace I'm using. So it's the same one as this one. And then it went and it created a lakehouse for me. So as you could see, it used the project name that I have given. Next, it is going and it created 3 tables for me. One is for monitoring logging. And then it also went and created date and time tables. Finally, it went and it created a semantic model once the tables are ready, and then it goes and creates the semantic model. Again, when it comes to the semantic model as well, it is using the my project as part of the naming, and it's created the semantic model. Following that, it checks if the relationships already exist. If doesn't exist, then it goes and creates it. The same thing happens with the measures as well. It goes and checks if the measures exist. And if the measures doesn't exist, it goes and creates it. If the measures do exist, then it goes and update the existing measures. So that's basically what happened. So if I go back to my workspace and click on it, unfortunately, the script is not clever enough to go and create in the folder. I could make it clever, but right now it's not. So it goes and creates it in the parent directory. So these are the two items that it has created. Let me move them to my logging framework. So in here, first it created a lake house for me. So if I click on the lake house, these are the three tables that I was talking about. And if I go to my monitoring log, it's empty. Obviously, we haven't used the monitoring anywhere. So far, we just initialized the logo. So it created all schemas behind it. However, for the date and time, it does go and populate. When it comes to time, it's pretty static. We only have 24 hours. But when it comes to date, it goes and loads the date for like the last 4 years and something. But all that information is customizable as part of the utility script. Going back to workspace, we could go and see our semantic model. So this is the semantic model. Right now, this is showing an error because it needs a refreshing because it's just been created, but nothing has refreshed so far. So if I just do a quick refresh now, that error will disappear. So if I go in and click on Open Semantic Model, it's a very simple semantic model. There's nothing fancy here. It has one fact table and 2 dimensions, date and time. And when I go to measures, I do have a few measures that it has created, but measures are also nothing fancy. So going back to workspace, next thing what I want to do is actually load some sample data into this to see how we could use it. So going back to GitHub, I have some logging script that I could do with some static values. So this is my logging script. In this case, I'm not capturing that much information. It is very much focused around project, notebook, tables, and just a few operations, like, rows before, rows after, and the execution time. So what I'm doing here is first I'm saying the notebook name, table name, kind of operation that I'm doing before, rows after, execution time, and the message. For this script, I am giving it as a manual values, like static values. But however, you could parameterize, you could use variables as part of this, and you could use this block of code in your script anywhere you want to capture that information. So if I just comment the recent activity and just press enter, well, command enter. So you could see there is a one row inserted into a logger. So go back to my lake house, click refresh, and that's where my logging that I've just inserted. And I should be able to go and view that one in the semantic model as well, because the semantic model is using the direct lake. It's probably going to take a few seconds to load up in there. But however, right now we have only one row of data, but I do have an existing example which has some more data. So this is my test run. And in case if you are interested to run the test run, if you go back to Git, there is another Python script which has some definitions that are basically used to create the test data, but all the way at the bottom, a way how to utilize this. Same functionality. So you could use your project name. So in this case, I'm using the project name as my project name. Then it goes and inserts the data into the existing lake house that's already there. If you give a new name, it goes and creates a brand new lake house, a brand new semantic model, and it goes and inserts the data for you. So I ran a full setup, complete test environment, and it created this testing monitoring thing for me. So if I go to my semantic model and actually go start creating a blank report. There's nothing fancy here. I think every project that I worked on, there are best practices that you use as part of the development. And many people forget about BAU. And once you hand over your project, what happens to the project? And that is a very important thing. Also, in many organizations that I have seen, you could go and enable logging at the tenant level or at workspace level, but it captures a lot of information and you probably don't need that much information. And within a workspace, not one project that executes, there might be multiple projects that you're working on. And you're more interested in just focusing on one project, and you're probably interested in very certain type of metadata for each of your pipeline or data flows as part of your project. So the idea behind it is you use it for the only project that you want to work with. And it creates these separated components like a lakehouse and semantic model. So once the project is finished and when it comes to that kind of a support stage, you have a report, you have some data that is explaining what's happening with this project. So if I go to core metrics, I could go and see total operations. But change the visual to something a bit more useful. I like my horizontal bar charts. So there you go. This immediately explains me which operation is, which notebook is running the most. And if I use the same thing and probably instead of using the operation, probably go and choose average execution time, then I could see performance testing is the one which is taking most of the data. And then if I want to go and show something else, like, I don't know, like a success rate or something. So let's put tooltip. And if I see success rate of this, it's pretty good. Actually, most of them are pretty good, except over here have less success rate, or there is no, yeah, this one has less success rate, about 80%. It's not bad. So you have information like that. And the other thing I think, which is also quite cool to know, is like, let me just put the table visual back in and let's keep a notebook name. And then I could keep over day, like let's just keep date key and put it in a matrix. And then I could go and see like total operations, total rows changed. Well, unique notebooks is not a great thing, but like average execution time and things like that. So it kind of gives you that kind of information over the time. This is not the great visual to be able to view it, but if I just change it into a line chart and put my notebook, remove the notebook. So I could keep like, average execution time, total operations and stuff like that. But I mean, I don't have enough data to show how this report is look at the grand scale, but it gives you an idea like how you could utilize and this framework to be able to capture most of the information. So if I go back to my notebook again, let's not save that not so pretty report, and go back to my resources folder and choose look into the code again. It's probably a better way to look at it is we open it in the VS Code and you will be able to go and edit most of the things. If you use Copilot, that would be a lot more easier. It is pretty self-explanatory. You have separate classes for each of them, and this is where our Fabric Logger class is. And this is where it's using like, the project name and things. And these are the two lines where it uses the variables to come up with the lakehouse name and the semantic model name. So if somebody is not happy with it, you could go and update things, and you could expand this code to do what you want. So basically, how I utilize it is I take the framework to whatever the client I'm working with. And pretty much every client and every project that I work on, the requirement changes, like, what they want to capture, what is important for them is based on that. I go and I update the script and capture the information that is required for that client. And once you have this utility available, you don't have to go and upload the utility to your notebook every time, you could also go and upload it into your environment as well. So I'm creating a new logging environment, and over here, where we have resources, you could go and upload this. Now that's been successfully uploaded. Let's close this. I'm gonna go back to my workspace and the folder. Let me go and create a new item, new notebook. So I go here and I choose the environment that I want to choose. So I have to stop and connect to your session again. Go back here, go to README and copy this. So first I will go and import it. So now, as part of my logging environment, I would be able to see this one. So I go and click Open in Notebook. So now this import command is a bit different to my import command previously. So if I go back to previous notebook, when I'm importing, it's using built-in Fabric logging utils. And in this notebook, it is not, it is using environment and then Fabric logging utils. So I'll just go and execute that. So I don't need to see the directory output, but next I'm going to add the same code. But now instead of creating actually, let me just use the same project. Oh, sorry, it's not the same thing. We have to use env. Actually, I don't need built-in. Let's delete that. Okay, after write code, it goes and logs the. So if I do initializing logging again, it does go and try to do the same steps that we've done in the previous one. But however, in this case, it doesn't go and recreate another lake house. It already knows there is an existing lake house, so it doesn't have to go and do anything. It's kind of like it sees what is already there, and it kind of like, everything is there. It's basically doesn't do anything with the lake house. When it comes to the other set of elements, it also looks at the semantic model is already there, and the rest of the things are already there too. So going back to Git, let's try to insert another operation from here. So let's go and do another a static data operation again. So let's just give a value. All right, now execute. And now that inserted that value into the fact table. And if I go back to my lakehouse, click refresh. Well, after a few refreshes, I actually managed to see my row in my SQL endpoint. But there you go. It shows the data is there. It's created the data, and you can view the data in your SQL endpoint. So going back to the notebook, as you could see, I used some static data, but however, you could go and use whatever the variables that you want to use, and you could use this log operation at various places in your notebook cells, and at each place you could probably capture different items. So on my GitHub, there are some examples files as well. So if I go back to my workspace, not Fabric portfolio, to my content and logging framework, and let's import notebook. So this is my notebook, and now I would just go and use the environment I want, which is the logging environment, conform. And because I have the logging environment, I have to, let's load that. Let's put it over here and run that. And then I'm going to replace my built-in with the env dot everywhere. So yeah, I have to comment this out every time I'm forgetting to remove that director command. Okay, let's hide this output. I don't need to run this input statement again. So we have various examples. So if I just split this cell here. So this is one example where I am using the Fabric logger. It's actually going and initializing a new one. So I'm going to just use my project. So it's executed. So it starts the logger and it's went and it runs the two operation. One operation is just an insert, and then another example is like, log an error when there is like, you could probably do some try and catch, and you could put the logger operation as part of the catch as well. So, and you could see those are the two rows that's been inserted. So you could use this notebook to play with it to understand how it works. There are so many improvements that can be done to this one. First of all, like, you don't have to initialize the, every time you initialize the logger, it doesn't have to check, like, is this lakehouse is created, semantic model is created. We could have separate commands to want to prepare the all the environment, and then every other time you just use the logger. You don't actually have to check the environment is there and all those things. But however, when you're sharing on the GitHub, I thought this was the easiest way to share. So like you have one script which does everything for you as a step zero. I hope it's you find it useful. I hope it inspired you. And please let me know what you think about it, or anything about it. I am planning to more on it. That's what I do with my clients. I don't most of times it won't be that basic. It does get expanded over time. But however, this is where I start as well. But thank you for watching. I'll see you in next video.